Hi everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you the very first thing you can do with Python language as a beginner. So the first thing we can do here is drawing shapes. I want to try to draw a shape here, a triangular shape, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to try to really check how good is Python when it comes to taking instructions from the programmer. So you will have 4 print functions on your screen, and I want you to come to the last one and add some slash. So I will come here, add a slash in all of them. Then after adding slash, I will go to the second one from down and move 1 step to the right. Then again come to the third one from downwards and move 2 steps to the right, and then come to the first one and move 3 steps to the right. So after that I will come after the slash in the first one, and I'm going to add another shape there like the one you are seeing on the screen. I will come to the second one and move 1 step to the right, add another one, come to the third one, move 2 steps to the right, add another one, and then finally I will come to the last one. Before I move any steps to the right, I'm going to add the slash there, then come before slash and I'm going to add some underscore here. So that one I will add 3 of them, and that will make me move 3 steps from left to right. Now you can see I have something like a triangular shape. So I will try to run this program. I will come and click the run Python file button here, and when I click there, you can see on my console I will see I am having a triangular shape. So this means Python is good in following instructions such that it will definitely do exactly what the programmer is trying to do. Now if I want to go ahead and see if the Python is really good in following instructions, I can come back inside my codes and I can cut the last print function, that is Control X. Then I will come on top here, press enter, then I will paste the code on the top there. So after that I will come and run it again, and you can see when I do that, you can see down here that I'm having another figure, a different from the first one. That means Python really follow instructions and it does everything a programmer wants it to do. So that is the first tutorial. Now the second thing you need to know as a beginner when handling Python programming language is how to use data types and variables. So let me just clear this. Then after clearing that, I'm going to have hash, and after that I can write data. I can say data types. I can say data types followed by variables. Now as a beginner you should not worry too much what data types and variables are, but I can give a brief information about them. In Python we can use different types of data, and the types of data we have in Python are strings, boolean, and the last one we can talk about is called a number. Another thing you must try to know is the variable. So a variable is just a container that a programmer can use to store a certain value. So it's just a container used to store values in programming. So just as we started, I can just have print function here, and I want to try and create some story in this programming language. So let me have print, and I want 4 of them, so I will again copy this and paste it 4 times downwards. So I'm going to have some short story here. So I will come in the first one and say that I can say there once was a girl called Jane. She was 40 years old. She loved the name Jane, but did not like being 40. She did not like being 40. So I have an interesting story here with 4 lines saying there once, or let me do some corrections here. There once was a girl called Jane. She was 40 years old. She loved the name Jane. I can say but did not like being 40. So this is just a normal story I'm trying to print using Python. So if I come and run this program here, you can see on my console I'm having the story printed here, clear, reading there once was a girl called Jane. She was 40 years old. She loved the name Jane but did not like being 40. Now if you have a story like this one, this story contains numbers, at the same time it contains string. So string basically is just a line of code, and all of us, we know what a number is. For example, this 40 is a number. Now assuming I want to do some changes in this story, remember Jane does not like being 40 years old. So if I want to do some changes in this story, I can just come and delete 40 here, for example, and make it younger or older. I can say 25. At the same time, if I don't want the name Jane, I can just come and change it here, and I can say a name like Maureen. So that will help me change the name. But I've been imagining, what if I have 1,000 of lines of stories inside my code? It will be so tiresome to go inside the codes one by one doing the changes the way I have been doing here. So there is a way I can handle that, and the way I can handle that is through the use of variables. So I can create a variable on top of my story that will help me do the changes very easily when I have a bunch of codes and I don't want to do the replacement one by one. So let me just take my story back the way it was. So I have the story as it was initially, and I'm going to come on top here and I'm going to press enter. Now I've said my story contains both strings and numbers, so I'm going to create the first variable here, and I can name my variable. I can say something like phrase. I'm just trying to name my variable. You can give your variable any name you like. You are not restricted. So this is how we create variables in Python. I will say phrase is equals to, then I will store my string or my variable inside the speech marks. And let me say something like Maureen. So I have Maureen inside there, and the next variable I'm going to create is the number or the integer. So because you can see in my story I have both the strings and the number, so this one I can call it age, because that is what is inside my story, is equals to, then I'm going to store this, and I can say something like 25. So I have two variables on top here, and these variables will help me do the changes inside my story. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come just close to this word called, and I'm going to introduce speech mark there. So because I want to change this part for Jane, I want to change this name to Maureen, for example. So I will click, come here, delete Jane, then I will create some space there. Then after this, I'm going to add a plus sign here. I'm going to add a plus sign here. Then I'm going to have something like phrase. Remember, phrase is my variable name, that's why I'm placing it there. And inside the phrase, I have a name called Maureen, which is a string stored inside there. So after having something like this, I can run my program. I want to really see if the name Jane will change to Maureen. So I will come and run this, because I want to really check if that has happened. So you can read my story again here. You can see the story says, sorry, there is an error here that I should correct. This one should be the ones was a girl called, and this phrase, the Python will go inside the variable phrase, and then it will read what is inside this phrase called Maureen. So I will expect that to be printed at the console. Instead of printing Jane, I will now print Maureen. So there once was a girl called Maureen. She was 40 years old. She loved the name Jane, but did not like being 40. So you can see my story is now reading Maureen instead of Jane. That is the simplest way I can use variables during programming to do changes inside my code. I can also do the same here with this other variable called age, and I will come here and introduce another speech mark. Introduce another speech mark there, create some space, and after that I will add a plus. Then I will delete 40, and instead of having 40 there, I will have the word age here as my variable, create space again, add plus, and then years old is a variable, so I must make sure it is inside the speech marks. So I will have something like this, and I can try to run this program and really check if instead of having 40 in my second line of the story, I should now have a statement reading she was 25 years old. So I will just come here and run this program, and I will try to see what the Python gives. I can see some error here in line 7, and the Python says can only concatenate a string, not integer. So we will correct that error here. I forgot to put 25 inside the speech marks. Remember, I must convert 25 to a string, and the shortest way you can do that is just introduce 25 to be inside the speech marks. So I will run this again and see if I will get a better result. There we go. So my story says there once was a girl called Maureen. She was 25 years old. She loved the name Jane but did not like being 40. So this is something a programmer or a beginner in Python should be able to do. It's the best practice where one can learn how to use variables and data types in Python language. Now in the next tutorial, what I'm going to do is working with strings. So I will just come and delete this. And I'm going to have a statement here saying working with strings, because now you know what strings are. Strings is just a line of code in Python or any other language. So the first thing we're going to do is very simple. I'm just going to type print function here, then I'm going to add parentheses, and inside the parentheses I must have speech marks. So I can have something like Ajowi. School. Then I will go ahead and run this program. I want to really see if Python will be able to print the statement Ajowi. You can see that here at the console. I'm able to see Ajowi school. So there is a number of things you can do with strings in Python programming language. I can create strings, variables, and I can also do something called concatenation. Concatenation is just bringing two or more strings together to form one line of codes in Python language. So the first thing we are going to do here is something called \n. I can have \n here, and after that I'm going to run this program. I want you to check what happens when I do that. School will come below Ajowi, and that is one thing you can do with Python. If you want to print one line below the other, you can introduce this \n, and you can see the result at the console. So that is the first thing you can do with strings in Python. And the next thing we can do with strings in Python is very simple. I can come and delete this string called Ajowi school here. I will come here on top, press enter, then I'm going to try to create some variable here. Still, my variable name will be phrase. You can use any the way you want, you are not restricted. So I will have equal sign and then speech marks because it's a string, and therefore I'm going to have my normal word here reading Ajowi school. Ajowi school. So I have a phrase. This is my variable name called phrase, and then I have Ajowi school. So this is how Python will access what is inside your variable. So I can come down here and print phrase. After writing the print function, inside the bracket I will have the word phrase. In short, what I'm trying to do is I am telling Python to go inside the variable called phrase and literally check what is inside there. Then after checking it, I am telling Python to print for me the word Ajowi, which is inside the variable phrase. So when you run this program, you will see instead of printing phrase, I will print what is inside the word phrase or the variable phrase, and what is inside there is Ajowi school. That is how we use Python to access what is inside the variable. Now that's fine. So the next thing I'm gonna do here or show you is concatenation. Concatenation, I've said, is bringing two or more lines of codes together to form one line of code or information. So I will come here and add plus, and after adding plus, I can introduce quotation marks or speech marks, and I'm going to say is cool. In other words, I'm trying to say Ajowi school is cool. And if I run this program, Python should be able to print for me that at the console. And you can see here I have Ajowi school is cool. There is an error I corrected when I was handling variables and data types in Python. So it meant that you cannot concatenate an integer and a string. For you to do concatenation, you must only have a string and a string. Or if you want to concatenate an integer with another string, then you must convert your integer into a string. The next thing is functions. I can also use functions with my phrase here says Ajowi. That means I can use functions with this string called Ajowi school to perform a number of things. A function basically is just used to modify or get information about a string. So the first thing I'm going to do here, or the first function I can try to use here, is I can have print there. Then I will have my parentheses. So the first one I can say phrase. First one I can say phrase dot, and then after dot I'm going to have the first function, which can say upper. And what this is going to do is going to convert the string which is stored inside my variable phrase to capital letters. Ajowi school, all of it will be converted to capital letters once I use this function called upper. Dot upper. Remember, phrase is my variable name. If you are using a different name for your variable, you can say that name dot upper. So I'm going to run this one, and you will see at the console I will have Ajowi being printed in capital letters. So you can see I'm going to have phrase dot upper, then after upper I should have another parenthesis here, so that will be control then parenthesis sign. So I have something like this. Now when I run this program here and you check my console, you can see Ajowi school is now in capital. The whole of it changes from a mixture of capital and small letters to capital. So that is the first function I can use with strings. The second function I can use with strings is called len. And before I forget, I can have dot upper, at the same time I can have dot lower, and dot lower now will do the opposite of dot upper. That means it will convert Ajowi School, all of it, to small letters. So when I also run that one, you will be able to see everything here will be converted to small letters. The next one I've said is len, and the function len, you can just use it to see the length of the string. For example, I want to see how many words are inside that string, so I can just come here and delete everything which is inside this parenthesis, the main parenthesis. Then I'm going to say len. After having len, I'm going to add another parenthesis in front of len, and inside there I'm going to have my phrase here. And I repeat again, phrase is my variable name. So when I run this program, it will come inside the variable phrase and it will count each and every word here in this string called Ajowi School, and I will get the total number of letters there. It will also count the space between Ajowi and school. So when I do that here, you will be able to see everything being printed. You can see I have 13 here, and that means those are the number of letters which are in Ajowi School, a string that I stored inside my variable called phrase. The next thing I can do with strings, another function I can use is I can know the specific letter. For example, I can say I want to know the letter M in Ajowi falls at what position in this phrase. So I can use another function here. I will come and delete this one, and after deleting this I will write phrase followed by square bracket. I will have square bracket here. Now after having the square bracket, here, I will try to check if I can get the exact position of different letters inside the phrase saying Ajowi School. Now let me start with 0. I want you to see the letter that will be printed on my console when I put 0 inside there. You can see I have letter A. That means the first letter in my string Ajowi School is letter A. This function uses something like arrays format. When it's numbering a string, it begins from 0, go to 1, to 2, to 3, all the way. For example, A is at 0, then 1, 2, then M will fall at number 3. So I can literally confirm that when I delete this 0, which is inside the square bracket, and then add 3 inside there, the system will execute, and then I will be able to print letter M on my, you can see M on my console. Let me increase the size a little bit so that it can be clear for all of us. So that is what we having here. You can see this one, letter M is here, letter M is there, and when I increase this size, you can really see letter M being printed. So that is another function I can use with strings. I can literally check the exact position of a letter inside a string. So I'll take this back, and now that marks the end of different functions one can use with strings when coding Python. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you working with numbers, how you can work with numbers in Python. So the first thing we must have here is hash followed by working with numbers. That is a comment. That is how we write comments in Python. That shows what you are doing. So I can just come here and say print. I can just come and say print followed by parenthesis, and inside that parenthesis I can just have a normal number like 2.5, and when I run this program you will be able to see 2.5 printed at the console. So if you check here, you can see I have 2.5 there. I can delete this and have another number. Let me say a number like 347, and when I run this again I should be able to print 347. You can see 347 here being printed. Another person can decide to do just a simple arithmetic inside this, and somebody can even decide to have 3 plus 4 plus 7 inside here, and that should be equals to 14. So when I run this program again, you will be able to see that Python is able to perform just a basic arithmetic, and you can see I have at the console 14. So that is one thing we can do with numbers in Python. It's very cool. Python also uses what is called BODMAS. For example, I can decide to alter the order of operation in my arithmetic or whatever I'm trying to do. So I can say 3 plus 2, then I can have plus again, then I can introduce another bracket here, and I can say 3 times, or let me say 3 minus, or let me just use 3 times 4. So you will realize that Python will first multiply 3 times 4 to get 12, then Python will add 12 to 5, which result from 3 plus 2. So that means Python will always follow BODMAS. It will solve what should be solved first, followed by the next. So when I run this program again, you will see at the console I will have 17 here at the console, and that is what I'm getting from that. So that's cool. Python can do all that. Now the next thing you can also do with Python is called getting modulus. For example, I can say something like 10 percentage 3, and what this means in Python programming is modulus. If you are told to get the modulus of operation like 10 percentage 3, basically what I'm trying to do is I just want Python to tell me which number will remain, or the remainder, when I divide 10 by 3. So we call it modulus in Python, and therefore you will get result to be 1. That is from 10 mod 3. Let me run this program to really see if I will get that, and you can see the result here is 1, because if you take 10 divided by 3, you will get 3.33 something, and the remainder will be 1. So that is something called the modulus in Python. Now the next thing we can do after modulus with Python is I can also store a number. I can create a variable and store a number inside it. For example, I can just come and delete this print function, and I can say my underscore number. I can have something like my underscore number equal sign, and I'm going to say this my number to be a number like 8. So that is a variable I'm creating down there, and after that I can do a number of things with this my number, which is 8. The first thing I can do is I can try to find something called ABS of this number, the absolute value of this number on the screen, which is 8. So I can come and say print, then followed by parenthesis, and inside the parenthesis I can have ABS, which stands for the absolute value. Then I'm going to add parenthesis there again. So inside there I'm going to have my variable name called my num, and when I run this program I should be able to get the absolute value of 8, and you can see the absolute value of 8 is still 8 as shown in my console. So I can just delete this. I can have a number like -8 here and run this again to see the absolute value of -8 is still 8. That is another thing you can do with numbers in Python programming language. So I also have other functions that I can do with numbers in Python, and the first or the next function I'm going to is called POW, the power function. So I can have POW here, then after that I'm going to have parentheses. So this POW is a function that stands for power. So when I have two numbers here like 3, 2, what I'm trying to do here is I'm just telling Python that take 3 and raise it to power 2. So that is what this function will do. So 3 raised to power 2 should be equals to 9, and that is what I'm trying to do. So when I run this program here, I'll be able to get 9 as the result. So the function power, or POW in Python, stands for power, and a beginner must always know that, because a number of Python programmings you will be required to use numbers at some point. The next one is called max. The next one is called max function. So I can just delete POW, which is there, and add max here. And what this max function will do is it will go inside the bracket where I have the numbers, and it will try figure out which number between 3 and 2 is the maximum, and it will pick that and print it at the console. So when I run this program, you can see instead of printing 2, it is printing 3, because I have 3, 2. So 3 is the maximum number there. So instead of printing 2, it's printing 3. I can even come and change this number. It's not a must to use 3, 2. I can have a number like 7, 8, then run the program again, and the Python will select the maximum number, which is 8. If you check my console, you can see I have 8 being printed there. The next thing, or the next function I can do with the numbers here is called the minimum. And minimum now will do exactly the opposite of maximum. So I will have something like min, which is the function, and when you run this program now, it will pick 7 instead of 8, and that means min select the number, the smaller number between 7 and 8. And when you check my console, you are able to see that 7 is being printed and not 8. The next one is round function, and round function is just for rounding off numbers. So I can have round here, and then inside this bracket I can have something like 2, let me say 2.5. Let me say 2.5. I want to see if this number will be rounded off when I use this function round. So I will run this program again and see what will be printed on the console, and you can see I have 2 here. So what round does is simple. Round just picks the whole number. I think that's what I'm seeing, just picking the whole number and chopping off the decimal part. I can even change this number. Let me have a number like 3. Let me have a number like 3.2, and when I run this program, the number will be rounded off to the nearest whole number, and you can see I have 3 and the 0.2 is chopped off. So that is another function we can use in Python. Now there are other functions which are not with Python, and when you are using a Python language, you can get other functions from outside and then use it in your programming, and we will use something called Python import. So when you use Python import, you will be able to add some math functions which are not within the Python. So I'm going to use something called a math import from Python. So I just come here and type from, then create some space. Then I'm going to have math space again, then I love import, and after that I will have this asterisk sign here. So basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bring in some mathematics functions which are coming from outside. They're not within the Python that I'm using. So the first one is flow. The first one is called flow, and I want to try to see what flow will do when it comes to different math functions. So I will delete round, and then I will have flow here. So I will run this program. I've said print flow, then I have 3.2 inside the parenthesis. So when you run this, you will see that the program will print 3. So it means the flow function will be doing the same thing as round off. Let me use a different number here, like 5.7, then run this program again and see what happens. So when you run that one, you get your 5 as the value, and 0.7 will be chopped off. So that means the round function and the flow function will be doing the same thing. The next thing you can also do is seal. It's called seal function, and I want to seal a number like 5.7. I want to literally see what will happen when I do that. So I can run this program, and you will see I have 6. So seal definitely round off the number to the nearest, I think 10 or something, or to the nearest whole number. Let's say something like that, because you can see inside my Visual Studio Code I have a number like 5.7, and then seal function will round off this to the nearest whole number. And now because 7 is more than 5, it's not less than 5, it will round off 5 to the nearest whole number. That will become 6. What if I have a number which is below, let me say I have a number which is below 5 here, a number like 3, so I have 5.3. When you run this program, the seal function will round off this to the nearest whole number. And now that 3, which comes after the decimal point, is less than 5, it will only give you 5 at the console when you run this program. So you can see that I'm having let me have a new number here. Let me have a number like let me say 8.3. Let me say 8.3 here, and run this program, and I'm having 9. So seal will always round off a number and add 1 to the whole number. That is what seal does. That means I think seal will be doing something which is the opposite of floor, if I'm not wrong, because the floor was just giving the numbers, was just chopping off the decimal point, but this one now is somehow considering the decimal point, so the number which are on the decimal point. Like for example, if I have 8.3 here, what will be printed at the console will be 9, so it will be adding 1 to the whole number anytime you use the seal function. The last one is called sqrt function, which stands for square root. So I will have sqrt, and this stands for square root. So I can have a number inside here like 36, and we all know the square root of 36 is 6, and when I run this program I should be able to obtain that at the console. So you can see I have 6.0, and that is the square root of 36. So that is another function we can import and use in Python. I can even have a number here like 144, and when I run this program I should be able to get the square root of 144, which is 12, and you can see here that I have it at the console. So those are possible functions one can use with Python programming language as a beginner. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get input from a user using the Python language. So after hash, I can say getting input from a user. So basically what this will be doing is I just create some prompt that will communicate to the user, whoever is using the computer or anywhere where the prompt will appear. So I can prompt a user and tell them that enter your name, your age, or any other thing. And once they do that and press enter, I should get a feedback from their name, like I will be able to print their name at the console. So the first thing we use when doing this is we must have what is called the input. You just write input, then after that you create some space, equal sign, and then I will add parentheses. So inside the parentheses I want to have some string here which will prompt the user on what he or she should do. So I can come and say enter. I can come and say enter your name. Then I can have a colon here. So after saying enter your name, when I run this program, basically at the console, the program will tell the user to enter their name. So after entering the name and pressing enter, the name will be printed on the console. But remember, all this must be kept inside what is called a variable. Sorry, I did some error here. We should just have input followed by parentheses. We should not have equal sign there. So after having input, which comes with the prompt statement, what I want the user to do, this must be kept inside what is called a variable, which I did before, how to create variables in Python. So I can create a variable here, and I can call it name space, then I will have equal sign here. So I'm storing in this statement from input all the way to enter your name inside a variable called name. So below it I can come and say print. Below it I can come and say print. Then I will have parentheses, and inside the parentheses I can say something like hello. I can type a word like hello, and then I can create some small space here, then come out of that speech marks, add a plus sign, press enter again, and then I will add the name of my variable, which I said was called name. I can also create another space here. So this is what I have. Now what I'm trying to say is the system will tell the user to enter their name. After entering the name, the system will print hello followed by the name. So I can see something like hello junior and all that. It will depend with the name I will enter immediately after running the program. So I can run this and see the outcome I will have at the console. So you can see at the console, let me increase the size a little bit so that we can see. So you can see here I have a prompt text saying enter your name. So I can come here and enter a name. For example, I can come here and say Junior. So when I enter the name Junior and press enter again, you will see the system will print hello Junior. So that is one way one can create what is called inputs in Python programming language, which basically are used to get information from users. I can even add two inputs here. I can just come and copy this, then paste it below. It's not a must to only get one input from a user. You can get as many as possible. So I can press enter here and have Control V, and this variable now I can change it to what's called age, and now I will tell the user to enter. Oh, sorry, let me get that back, and I will tell the user now to enter their age instead of name. There are two different things, so I can say enter your age, something like that. So inside here I can come here again and create some space here, add plus, and after plus I can say I want the system now to print something like hello Junior. Then I will say you are 26 or 24 or 13, whichever the age. So I can say plus, then I will create some space here, and I'm going to say you are, and then after that I should have the other variable here. So I will have another plus here, and now I'm adding the variable called age. So this system will say hello Junior, you are, then it will print the age just after the statement you are, and this age will be the age will enter at the console. So I will run this program again, and you can see the system will tell me to enter my name here. So I can enter my name here. I will say Junior, and when I press enter again, the system will again prompt me to enter my age. So I can say 23. Then after that, when I press enter, the system will say hello Junior, you are 23. I can see 23 is very close to R, so I can come and correct that here. You just come before R I mean, and create some space there between the quotation marks and the R. So I can rerun this again, and you will see how that will happen. So my name is Junior, press enter, and my age is 23. Press enter again. So you can see I have a statement printed here saying hello Junior, you are 23. So as a beginner you can do all that in Python, and thanks for listening. Meet you in the next tutorials. Goodbye.